Nice costume. Halloween's over. The words cut through Gate B-27 at Denver International Airport. Every conversation dies instantly. Gate agent Bradley Thompson sneers from behind the counter. His pale face radiates pure disgust. Colonel James Washington stands before him in military dress uniform. Medals gleam across his chest. Thompson grabs Washington's boarding pass, tears it in half with violent force. White pieces flutter between them. The terminal erupts in gasps. Phones lift everywhere, red dots recording. Washington doesn't flinch. "You deaf? Move along." Thompson waves dismissively at the decorated officer. "Sir, I'm escorting a fallen soldier home," Washington says quietly, his voice steady as steel. Thompson laughs coldly. "Sure you are, pal. And I'm the president." The crowd's anger builds. Whispers turn to murmurs of outrage. Washington places his military ID on the counter. Thompson doesn't even glance at it. "Fake ID won't work on me. Security!" Thompson shouts toward the terminal. Two security officers approach reluctantly. They can clearly see Washington's legitimate uniform and credentials. Have you ever watched someone's hatred destroy everything they touch? 3 hours earlier, Colonel James Washington sits in his modest Arlington apartment. Morning sunlight filters through thin curtains. A framed photo of his late wife Sarah rests on the coffee table beside military orders. The orders are printed on official Department of Defense letterhead. Casualty Assistance Officer Assignment, Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez. Washington's weathered hands trace the words carefully. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez died at 24 in a roadside bombing outside Kabul. Her parents in Denver are waiting. Her mother called yesterday, voice breaking. "Please bring our baby home, Colonel." This is Washington's sacred duty. In 30 years of service, he has escorted 17 fallen soldiers home. Each mission carries the weight of a family's grief. Each uniform press honors another sacrifice. Washington rises from his leather chair. His joints ache slightly. Reminders of 3 combat deployments. Afghanistan twice, Iraq once. Shrapnel scars mark his left shoulder from an IED blast in Kandahar. He showers methodically in his small bathroom. Hot steam fogs the mirror completely. The ritual calms his mind before difficult missions. He shaves with military precision, each stroke deliberate and controlled. His dress blue uniform hangs pressed in the bedroom closet. The fabric feels heavy with tradition. Ribbons and medals align perfectly across the chest. Bronze star for valor. Purple heart for sacrifice. Combat action badge for courage under fire. Washington buttons the jacket slowly. The gold eagles on his shoulders gleam under bedroom lighting. This uniform has walked through Arlington Cemetery countless times. It has comforted crying mothers and saluted flag-draped caskets. His phone buzzes against the nightstand. A text from Rodriguez's father. "Flight lands at 3 p.m. Maria's room is ready. We'll be waiting at baggage claim." Washington's throat tightens. Parents always prepare their child's room. Clean sheets, fresh flowers, photo albums spread across the bed. They forget their baby isn't coming home alive. He loads his government sedan with practiced efficiency. Official escort documentation goes in a leather portfolio. Military ID with photo and rank insignia. Orders signed by General Patterson himself. Death certificate sealed in manila envelope with red classification stamps. The drive to Dulles Airport takes 43 minutes through Northern Virginia traffic. Washington arrives 90 minutes early, following protocol precisely. He parks in Zone B, short-term parking, space 247. Inside the terminal, fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Travelers rush past with rolling suitcases and coffee cups. The afternoon crowd builds toward weekend departures. Security screening proceeds without incident. TSA agents nod respectfully at his uniform. A young officer snaps to attention briefly. Other travelers step aside in the checkpoint line automatically. "Thank you for your service," an elderly man whispers, touching Washington's shoulder gently. Washington nods politely. "Thank you for your support, sir." He proceeds through the concourse toward Gate B-27, Atlantic Airways Flight 447 to Denver. Departure time, 1:30 p.m. His boarding pass shows Seat 12A, middle of the aircraft, standard for escort missions. The gate area fills with Friday travelers. Business executives tap phones impatiently. Families corral excited children. College students sleep across plastic chairs with backpacks as pillows. Behind counter position 3, gate agent Bradley Thompson notices Washington approaching from across the concourse. Thompson's face sours immediately like milk left in summer heat. Thompson nudges his colleague Sarah Carter with his elbow. "Here comes another one trying to play soldier." Chen glances up from her computer terminal. Her fingers pause over the keyboard. "Brad, that's clearly a real military officer. Look at his uniform quality." "Military my ass," Thompson whispers, his voice dripping with contempt. "Probably bought that costume from some surplus store downtown." Thompson's prejudice runs deep as winter frost. 8 years with Atlantic Airways, 6 formal complaints filed against him, all dismissed due to his Uncle Derek's management position. The family connection shields him from consequences. Washington reaches the counter precisely 30 minutes before boarding begins. His footsteps echo across polished terminal floors with military cadence. Other passengers glance admiringly at his pressed uniform and gleaming medals. Thompson's jaw clenches visibly as Washington approaches. The gate agent's pale hands fidget with boarding passes unnecessarily. His eyes narrow with barely concealed hostility. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez waits in the cargo hold below. Her flag-draped casket was secured according to strict military protocol. Her sacrifice demands honor. Her family deserves dignity and respect. But Thompson's hatred has other plans entirely. "Can I help you?" Thompson's voice carries fake politeness that doesn't reach his cold eyes. Washington places his documentation on the counter with military precision. The leather portfolio opens to reveal official papers arranged in perfect order. "Colonel James Washington, I'm the escort officer for Flight 447. Thompson barely glances at the official documents. His expression hardens like a concrete setting in the winter cold. "We're all booked up today. Nothing I can do about that." The computer screen clearly shows available seats in multiple rows. Washington can see the display from his angle across the counter. Green availability indicators fill the monitor like Christmas lights. "Sir, I have priority boarding status for military escort duties," Washington explains with practiced calm. His voice remains steady despite Thompson's obvious hostility brewing beneath the surface. Thompson leans back in his ergonomic chair with theatrical skepticism. His pale hands drum against the counter impatiently. "Priority status? Let me guess. You bought some fake military papers online from China?" Other passengers begin noticing the heated exchange developing at the gate counter. A businessman in an expensive suit pauses his phone call mid-sentence. An elderly couple stops walking to listen with growing concern. Washington produces his military identification card from his wallet. The laminated card feels solid in his weathered fingers. The photo matches his face perfectly. His rank insignia gleams under harsh terminal lighting. "These are legitimate Department of Defense credentials, sir." Thompson makes an elaborate show of examining the ID with exaggerated suspicion. He holds it up toward the fluorescent lights dramatically, squinting like a jeweler examining fake diamonds. "Nice try, buddy. But I've seen plenty of fake IDs before. This looks homemade to me." Sarah Carter shifts uncomfortably behind the adjacent counter terminal. Her fingers pause over the keyboard as tension builds. She whispers urgently to her colleague, "Brad, those documents look completely legitimate. Maybe we should call a supervisor immediately." "I'm the senior supervisor here," Thompson snaps at his colleague with rising irritation. His voice echoes across the gate area loud enough for surrounding passengers to hear clearly. Washington maintains his composure through decades of practiced military discipline. Sir, I'm escorting a fallen soldier home to her grieving family. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez died serving our country overseas. Thompson's laugh sounds harsh and mocking like fingernails on a chalkboard. Oh, here comes the sob story routine. That's absolutely classic manipulation. What's next? You're going to tell me you're some kind of decorated war hero? The businessman with the paused phone call edges closer to overhear better. His expression shows growing disbelief at Thompson's unprofessional behavior toward a uniformed military officer. An elderly man in a faded Vietnam veteran's baseball cap approaches the counter slowly. Robert Mitchell, 74, walks with a slight limp from old shrapnel wounds that still ache during cold weather. Son, that's a real colonel standing right there, Mitchell addresses Thompson directly with quiet authority. I can tell by his uniform details and ribbon arrangement. Those decorations are positioned in proper military order according to regulations. Thompson turns his mounting contempt toward the elderly veteran with visible disgust. Mind your own business, old man. I know how to do my job properly without help from random civilians wandering around. Mitchell's weathered face flushes red with mounting anger. Deep lines crease around his eyes. Civilian? I served 2 full combat tours in Vietnam while you were probably still wearing diapers and crying for your mama. The crowd grows steadily larger as voices rise with increasing tension. Teenagers pull out smartphones to record the developing confrontation. Parents instinctively shield young children from the escalating verbal violence. Washington attempts to de-escalate the situation professionally like his military training taught him. Gentlemen, please calm down. I just need to board this flight to complete my official military mission on time. Thompson stands up behind the counter aggressively, his chair rolling backward with force. His pale face turns bright red with mounting anger and wounded pride. Mission? What kind of so-called mission involves fake documents and obvious stolen valor accusations? Stolen valor? Washington's military bearing finally shows its first small crack. His jaw tightens visibly under dark skin. Sir, I've served this country faithfully for 30 continuous years. Thompson points accusingly at Washington's colorful metal ribbons with his trembling finger. Those ribbons look like they came straight from some cheap costume shop downtown. Real military officers don't fly on commercial airlines like common passengers. The accusation hits Washington like a physical blow. His Bronze Star ribbon represents genuine combat valor under enemy fire. His Purple Heart commemorates bloodshed for American freedom. Sarah Carter tries intervening again with growing desperation. Brad, this situation is getting completely out of hand. Let me call airport security to verify his credentials through proper official channels. Absolutely not, Thompson shouts, his voice carrying across the entire gate area like a bullhorn. I'm handling this developing situation myself completely. This man is obviously trying to scam his way onto my aircraft. Washington produces additional documentation from his leather portfolio with steady hands. Official military orders signed personally by General Patterson in blue ink. Death certificate bearing federal government seals. Casualty notification forms printed on official military letterhead. Thompson doesn't even glance at the new supporting papers spread across his counter. More fake documents won't help your little scam, pal. I wasn't born yesterday, and I'm not stupid. The businessman with the paused phone call approaches the counter with growing concern. Excuse me, but I'm a retired Air Force major. That officer's uniform and documentation appear completely authentic to my trained eye. Thompson's paranoia reaches dangerous new heights of absurdity. Oh, that's just great. Another one of your criminal associates. Let me guess. You two are working this elaborate military impersonation scam together for profit? Airport security officers Johnson and Martinez approached the gate reluctantly after receiving Thompson's urgent radio call. They were told about a highly suspicious individual carrying fraudulent military documents and causing public disturbances. Officer Johnson examines Washington's credentials carefully with professional attention to detail. His trained law enforcement eye recognizes genuine military identification immediately. Sir, these documents appear completely legitimate. His uniform details are perfectly consistent with active duty colonel rank and regulations. Thompson refuses to back down despite the professional security assessment from trained officers. You can't trust anything these days with modern technology. Advanced printers make fake IDs look completely real to untrained eyes. Martinez whispers quietly to his partner behind his hand. This colonel's obviously completely legitimate. His dress uniform alone probably costs more than both our monthly salaries combined. Washington addresses the security officers directly with military bearing intact. Gentlemen, I'm conducting official United States military business. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's grieving family is expecting my arrival in Denver at exactly 3 p.m. today. Thompson interrupts loudly with growing desperation. Don't believe any of his elaborate fictional stories. He's probably running some sophisticated kind of military impersonation scheme for financial gain. The crowd's angry murmur grows louder and more restless. Multiple smartphone cameras record from different strategic angles. The viral social media moment builds momentum with each passing tense second. Mitchell, the Vietnam veteran, shakes his gray head sadly. This is exactly the kind of shameful disrespect our brave military faces from ungrateful civilians every single day. Other passengers begin taking sides audibly. A mother holds her young son closer. That's a real soldier, honey. He protects our country. A college student whispers to her friend, "This is so messed up. That guy's obviously military." Thompson feels the crowd turning against him completely. His authority was challenged from every direction. His face grows redder with mounting rage and wounded pride. Thompson's final escalation comes without any warning whatsoever. He grabs Washington's boarding pass from the counter surface and tears it dramatically in half. The paper rips loudly enough for everyone to hear clearly. The torn pieces flutter down between the two men like wounded birds falling from the sky. There. Problem completely solved. Find another airline, boy. The word boy hits the crowd like a physical slap across every face. Audible gasps echo throughout the entire gate area. Parents instinctively cover their children's ears. Veterans shake their heads in complete disgust. Washington's decades of military discipline prevent him from reacting emotionally to racial provocation. But his voice carries new steel when he speaks with quiet authority. Sir, are you absolutely certain you want to prevent a military escort from accompanying a fallen soldier home to her family? Thompson leans over the counter aggressively, invading Washington's personal space. I'm completely certain I don't want troublemakers like you anywhere near my flights. Security should escort you out of this terminal immediately. The confrontation reaches its explosive breaking point. Washington stands perfectly still, maintaining complete dignity despite public humiliation. Thompson crosses his arms with satisfied smugness. Neither man realizes this single moment will destroy everything Thompson holds dear in his pathetic life. This is absolutely ridiculous, Sarah Carter mutters, stepping away from her colleague with visible disgust. Her face shows embarrassment at being associated with Thompson's behavior. Airport Security Supervisor Captain Patricia Williams arrives at Gate B-27 after receiving multiple passenger complaints. Her 20 years in law enforcement taught her to recognize legitimate military personnel immediately. Williams examines Washington's credentials with professional thoroughness. She studies each document carefully, checking security features and official seals. These documents are genuine federal military orders. The escort priority status is completely valid. Thompson doubles down with increasing desperation, his voice rising to near shouting levels. Captain Williams, you don't understand the situation here. This man is trying to board my aircraft with suspicious documentation. I've seen fake military uniforms before during my 8 years with this company. Williams looks at Thompson like he's lost his mind completely. Mr. Thompson, this officer's credentials are legitimate. His uniform details are perfect. Those metal ribbons represent real combat service. Thompson's response reveals the deeper prejudice lurking beneath his professional facade. You people always stick together, don't you? I'm not letting any suspicious individuals board my aircraft, regardless of pressure. The phrase "you people" hangs in the air like toxic smoke. Passengers exchange shocked glances. Phone cameras capture every word for social media posterity. Washington attempts to contact his commanding officer to resolve the escalating situation professionally. He pulls out his military-issued smartphone with steady hands. "Sir, I need to notify my chain of command about this delay in the escort mission." Thompson intercepts the phone call attempt with paranoid aggression. "Oh no, you don't. He might be calling accomplices or other criminals. Security needs to confiscate that phone immediately for safety screening." Captain Williams stares at Thompson in complete disbelief. "Mr. Thompson, you can't confiscate a military officer's official communication device without probable cause of actual criminal activity." "I have probable cause," Thompson declares with false confidence. "Fraudulent military documents, stolen valor, possible terrorist connections. Nobody makes phone calls until we verify his real identity through proper channels." The accusation of terrorism causes visible shockwaves through the waiting passengers. Parents pull children closer instinctively. Elderly travelers shake their heads in disgust at the baseless accusations. Media attention begins building organically as passenger recordings upload to social platforms. Local news reporter Jennifer Santos, traveling through Denver International on assignment, recognizes the story potential immediately. Santos approaches elderly veteran Mitchell with her press credentials visible. "Sir, can you tell our viewers what you're witnessing here today?" Mitchell addresses the camera directly with righteous anger burning in his weathered eyes. "That's a decorated combat officer being treated like a common criminal. This is exactly the kind of shameful discrimination our military personnel face from ungrateful civilians." Thompson notices the news camera and grows more defensive rather than backing down. "Ma'am, don't believe everything you see. This individual is attempting to board our aircraft with questionable documentation." Santos turns her microphone toward Washington. "Colonel, would you like to comment on this situation?" Washington maintains military professionalism despite the public humiliation. "Ma'am, I'm simply trying to complete my official duties escorting a fallen soldier home to her family." Thompson interrupts the interview aggressively. "Don't give him a platform for his lies. This is exactly how these scams work. They get media sympathy." Meanwhile, Atlantic Airways customer service receives an avalanche of complaints simultaneously as passenger videos spread across Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. The hashtag Colonel Washington begins trending within 30 minutes. Regional Manager Derek Thompson, Bradley's uncle, receives urgent calls from corporate headquarters. Initially, he dismisses the complaints as another social media overreaction from people with too much time. Derek protects his nephew out of family loyalty rather than professional judgment. "Bradley's a good employee. He wouldn't discriminate against anyone. This is probably just a misunderstanding." Meanwhile, Washington's military chain of command receives notification of the escort delay. Colonel Patricia Hayes, Washington's commanding officer, begins making calls directly to Atlantic Airways corporate headquarters. The pressure mounts from multiple directions simultaneously. The flight faces increasing delays as the standoff continues past the scheduled boarding time. Other passengers grow frustrated with the extended wait. Thompson feels cornered by criticism from every angle: passengers, security, media, and his own colleague. His response becomes increasingly erratic and desperate. "Listen carefully, everyone," Thompson announces to the gathered crowd. "For all we know, this is an elaborate terrorist plot designed to exploit our respect for the military. Fake military uniforms are easily purchased online." The terrorism accusation crosses every line of professional decency. Captain Williams steps forward with visible anger. "Mr. Thompson, you're making false accusations against a legitimate military officer. This behavior is completely unacceptable." Thompson continues his paranoid rant despite professional warnings. "We can't be too careful these days with national security. Airport security protocols require thorough verification of suspicious individuals." Washington maintains perfect composure throughout the verbal assault, but his fellow veterans in the gate area grow increasingly angry. Mitchell approaches Thompson directly with decades of military authority behind his words. Son, I've seen real courage and fake cowards. You're embarrassing yourself and dishonoring every American who served our country. Thompson's response reveals the depth of his prejudice completely. Mind your own business, Grandpa. I don't take orders from has-been soldiers who couldn't make it in the real world. The insult against all veterans sends shockwaves through the crowd. Multiple passengers begin demanding Thompson's immediate supervisor. Parents explain to children why the man behind the counter is wrong. Unknown to Thompson, his discriminatory behavior triggers automatic review protocols at Atlantic Airways corporate headquarters. The airline's legal department begins reviewing the situation urgently, realizing that preventing legitimate military escorts could result in federal investigation. Background investigations reveal Thompson's employment record contains 6 formal complaints from minority passengers over the past 3 years. All complaints were previously dismissed due to Derek Thompson's management protection. Corporate security discovers a disturbing pattern of discriminatory behavior that was systematically ignored. Internal emails show Derek Thompson actively protecting his nephew from disciplinary action despite documented incidents. Thompson demands Washington remove his military jacket for additional security screening, claiming the metal ribbons could potentially be concealed weapons. The request is so obviously discriminatory that security officers refuse to enforce it. Sir, that's an official military dress uniform, Officer Martinez explains with professional patience. Those are legitimate military decorations earned through service. We cannot ask him to remove them without reasonable suspicion of actual criminal activity. Thompson's authority crumbles from every direction, but his prejudice prevents rational thinking. I'm calling the shots at this gate. Either he complies with my security requirements or he doesn't board my aircraft. Period. The crowd's mood shifts dramatically against Thompson as his discrimination becomes undeniable. Washington addresses the gathering passengers with quiet dignity that contrasts sharply with Thompson's hysteria. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand what's happening here clearly. I'm trying to escort Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez home to her family for military burial. She died serving our country overseas. Her mother is waiting at Denver Airport right now. Thompson's final desperate gambit reveals his complete moral bankruptcy. I don't care about any sob story or emotional manipulation. Rules are rules in this airport. No suspicious passengers board my flights under any circumstances. The confrontation reaches its peak intensity. Every passenger understands they're witnessing blatant discrimination against a military officer. Phones record from every angle as the viral moment reaches critical mass. Neither Thompson nor Washington realizes federal investigators are already en route to the airport. This incident will expose corruption far beyond one bigoted gate agent's personal prejudice. The terminal erupts with the sound of official phones ringing simultaneously. Thompson's radio crackles with urgent messages from multiple supervisors demanding immediate updates. This is Robert Sterling, CEO of Atlantic Airways. A stern voice cuts through Thompson's radio with unmistakable authority. You are immediately ordered to board Colonel Washington and provide him with first-class accommodation. Thompson stares at his radio in confusion, not recognizing the gravity of his situation. Sir, I don't know who you are, but I'm handling a security situation here according to company policy. Sterling's voice turns ice-cold with corporate fury. Mr. Thompson, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of this airline. You will follow my direct orders immediately, or you will be terminated within the hour. The crowd watches Thompson's face drain of color as reality begins penetrating his prejudiced fog. Sarah Carter backs further away from her colleague, sensing the approaching disaster. What Thompson doesn't know changes everything. Washington isn't just any colonel serving routine escort duty. He's currently assigned to the Pentagon's Inspector General Office, conducting a federal investigation into discrimination against military personnel in civilian transportation sectors. Colonel Patricia Hayes arrives at the airport personally, accompanied by base legal counsel and a federal investigator. Her military vehicle pulls directly to the terminal entrance with emergency lights flashing. Hayes strides through the gate area with a commanding presence that parts the crowd like water. Her uniform bears the insignia of Pentagon Command Authority. Behind her walks Agent Sarah Rodriguez, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's older sister. "Mr. Thompson," Hayes addresses the gate agent with military precision. "You have just interfered with a federal military operation under direct orders from the Department of Defense." Thompson's confidence finally begins cracking as he realizes the scope of his mistake. "Ma'am, I was just following airport security protocols. I didn't mean any disrespect to legitimate military personnel." Agent Rodriguez steps forward, her federal badge gleaming under terminal lights. "Mr. Thompson, you've unknowingly confessed to discrimination on federal property while being recorded by federal investigators." The revelation hits like a thunderbolt. Thompson's face goes completely white as he understands he's been under federal surveillance. "Federal investigators? I don't understand what's happening here," Hayes explains with clinical precision. "Colonel Washington is assigned to the Pentagon Inspector General's office investigating discrimination patterns across multiple airlines. Your behavior today has provided perfect evidence for our ongoing federal civil rights investigation." Thompson's legs nearly buckle as the full impact crashes down. "Inspector General? I thought he was just... he looked like..." "Like what, Mr. Thompson?" Agent Rodriguez's voice carries dangerous steel. "Please finish that sentence for our federal recording devices." The crowd realizes they've witnessed something far bigger than airline discrimination. Passengers understand they've documented a federal civil rights case unfolding in real time. CEO Sterling arrives personally within 90 minutes, having chartered a private jet from corporate headquarters. His face shows barely controlled corporate fury as he surveys the disaster. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling addresses the gathered crowd and news cameras, "Atlantic Airways sincerely apologizes for this inexcusable behavior. This does not represent our company values or professional standards." Thompson attempts to leverage his family connection desperately. "Mr. Sterling, you know my Uncle Derek personally. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. I was protecting airline security." Sterling's response destroys Thompson's last hope completely. "Your Uncle Derek was terminated 45 minutes ago for failing to address your documented pattern of discrimination. You're fired immediately and permanently banned from airline employment." The corporate meltdown accelerates beyond Thompson's worst nightmares. Sterling continues addressing the crowd with damage control urgency. "Mr. Thompson's employment is terminated effective immediately. Atlantic Airways is implementing comprehensive anti-discrimination reforms and cooperating fully with federal investigations." Agent Rodriguez reveals the investigation's true scope. Atlantic Airways has been under federal surveillance for 18 months due to systematic discrimination complaints. This incident provides conclusive evidence of institutional bias we've been documenting. Washington finally speaks with his full Pentagon authority revealed. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Colonel James Washington, assigned to the Pentagon Inspector General's office. Your behavior today has been recorded as evidence in a federal civil rights investigation." Thompson's world collapses completely as understanding dawns. "Pentagon Inspector General? You were investigating us the whole time?" "Your discrimination against military families and minority passengers," Washington confirms with military precision. "Every word you spoke, every action you took has been documented for federal prosecution." News reporter Santos broadcasts live to her network. What began as one man's prejudice has exposed company-wide discrimination patterns. Federal investigators confirm this incident concludes an 18-month civil rights investigation. The viral videos from passenger phones capture Thompson's shocked expression as he realizes his bigotry just destroyed his career, his uncle's position, and potentially the entire airline's federal contracts. Sterling addresses Thompson directly with corporate finality. "Mr. Thompson, you've brought federal investigation, media scrutiny, and legal liability upon this company. Security will escort you from the premises immediately." Thompson makes one final desperate plea. Please, I have a family, a mortgage, bills to pay. I'll take any training, do anything. Don't destroy my entire life over one mistake. Washington's response carries decades of military authority. Mr. Thompson, this wasn't one mistake. This was a pattern of discriminatory behavior that dishonored a fallen soldier and violated federal civil rights law. Airport security escorts Thompson from Gate B27, while passengers and news cameras document his removal. His career, his family's livelihood, and his future are destroyed by his own prejudice. The investigation that began 18 months ago concludes with perfect evidence of systematic discrimination captured live on social media for millions to witness. Thompson's arrogance crumbles like a house of cards in a hurricane. His face drains of all color as the weight of his situation crashes down upon him. "Colonel Washington, sir," Thompson's voice shakes with desperate panic. "I deeply apologize for this terrible misunderstanding. I was just doing my job, following standard security protocols. I never meant any disrespect to the military." Washington responds with military precision that cuts through Thompson's fake remorse. "Mr. Thompson, you publicly called me boy, claimed my uniform was a costume, and suggested I was a terrorist. You prevented me from honoring a fallen soldier. Your apology doesn't repair that damage." CEO Sterling addresses the crowd of passengers and news cameras with corporate damage control. Effective immediately, Mr. Thompson is terminated from Atlantic Airways. His supervisor, Derek Thompson, has also been terminated for failing to address documented complaints. Thompson's desperation reaches pathetic new heights. "Sir, please don't do this. I have a family, a mortgage, and car payments. I'll take sensitivity training, anger management, anything you require. Please don't destroy my life over one mistake." Sterling's response carries the finality of corporate judgment. "Mr. Thompson, you destroyed your own life with years of discriminatory behavior. This wasn't one mistake. It was a documented pattern we can no longer ignore or tolerate." The crowd watches as Thompson's world disintegrates before their eyes. Parents explain to children why the mean man is getting in trouble for being cruel. Airport security officers Johnson and Martinez receive orders to escort Thompson from the premises immediately. Their professional demeanor contrasts sharply with Thompson's panicked pleading. "This isn't fair," Thompson whimpers as handcuffs click around his wrists. "I was protecting airline security. I was following company guidelines." Martinez shakes his head with disgust. "Sir, no company policy authorizes racial discrimination against military officers." Thompson makes one final desperate appeal to Washington as security leads him away. "Colonel, please show mercy. You're military. You understand following orders." "I was just doing what I thought was right." Washington's measured response echoes through the terminal. "Mr. Thompson, no legitimate orders authorize treating people like animals based on skin color. You chose to act on personal prejudice, not professional duty." Agent Rodriguez steps forward with federal authority, her badge catching the harsh terminal lighting. "Mr. Thompson, you're being charged under federal civil rights statutes. The Department of Justice will contact you regarding criminal prosecution for interfering with federal military operations." Thompson's legs buckle as he realizes the true scope of his legal troubles. "Federal charges? I didn't know he was in the Pentagon. This is just a misunderstanding." "Ignorance of his assignment doesn't excuse discrimination," Agent Rodriguez responds coldly. "You violated his civil rights regardless of his specific military position." Corporate emergency response protocols activate across Atlantic Airways headquarters. Sterling announces sweeping reforms to the gathered media and angry passengers. "We're implementing immediate company-wide anti-discrimination training, establishing a military family support program, and cooperating fully with the federal investigation," Sterling declares with corporate urgency. The damage control extends beyond individual punishment. Stock prices begin falling as news spreads across financial networks. Military veteran organizations call for boycotts within hours. Washington receives immediate first-class upgrade and priority boarding status. The entire first-class cabin stands in spontaneous applause as he enters the aircraft. Flight attendants personally thank him for his service while ensuring his complete comfort. The crew treats him with the respect and dignity Thompson denied. Captain Michael Torres greets Washington personally in the cabin. "Colonel, it's an honor to have you aboard our aircraft. We'll ensure Staff Sergeant Rodriguez gets home with the dignity she deserves." The plane's intercom crackles with the captain's announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have Colonel Washington aboard, escorting a fallen hero home to her family." Passengers applaud again as Washington takes his seat. Many approach to thank him personally and apologize for Thompson's shameful behavior. Sarah Carter, Thompson's former colleague, issues her own public statement to news cameras. "I tried warning him multiple times. His behavior was completely unacceptable and doesn't represent our professional values." Sterling delivers a final public apology before departing. "Atlantic Airways takes full responsibility for this shameful incident. We failed Colonel Washington, we failed Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's family, and we failed our own stated values." As Thompson is driven away in a security vehicle, his career and reputation destroyed, Washington prepares for takeoff. The fallen soldier in the cargo hold below will finally reach her grieving family with the honor she earned through ultimate sacrifice. The immediate consequences are just the beginning of a much larger reckoning. Within 48 hours, the Department of Justice launches a comprehensive civil rights investigation into Atlantic Airways. Federal agents swarm corporate headquarters with search warrants and subpoenas for internal communications. The investigation reveals a systematic pattern of discrimination spanning 5 years, affecting dozens of military families and minority passengers across multiple airports. Internal documents expose deliberate cover-ups at the highest management levels. FBI investigators discovered damning internal emails showing corporate executives were fully aware of discrimination complaints, but failed to act due to the Thompson family's management connections within the company's structure. These emails prove willful negligence, lead prosecutor Amanda Foster announces at a federal press conference. Atlantic Airways leadership knew about discriminatory practices and chose profits over civil rights. Thompson faces formal federal charges that could destroy his life completely. Violation of federal civil rights under Title VI interference with federal military operations. Conspiracy to deny services based on racial discrimination. Filing false reports to federal authorities. Obstruction of a federal investigation. His uncle Derek faces additional conspiracy charges for systematically protecting his nephew from disciplinary action despite documented civil rights violations over multiple years. The trial became a national sensation covered by every major news network. Courtroom cameras capture Thompson's complete breakdown as evidence mounts against him daily. Prosecutor Foster presents overwhelming documentation to the jury. The defendant didn't just deny one man a seat on an airplane. He attacked the dignity of our military, dishonored a fallen hero, and violated the civil rights of every American. Thompson's defense attorney attempted arguing he was following company policy, but internal documents prove no such discriminatory policies existed in official airline procedures. Multiple witnesses testify about Thompson's long history of racist comments and discriminatory actions. Fellow employees describe years of inappropriate behavior that management ignored completely. Former passenger Marcus Williams takes the stand with powerful testimony. "Thompson called my daughter a ghetto brat when she was crying during boarding. I filed a complaint that disappeared into corporate bureaucracy." Sarah Carter, Thompson's former colleague, provides devastating insider testimony. "He made racist jokes constantly. He called minority passengers troublemakers before they even approached the counter. Management knew and did nothing." Colonel Washington's testimony becomes the trial's defining moment. His military bearing commands absolute courtroom respect as he describes the discrimination. "This wasn't about airline policy or legitimate security concerns," Washington states with quiet authority. Mr. Thompson made it crystal clear through his language and actions that he was motivated purely by racial prejudice. Agent Rodriguez provides the most emotionally powerful testimony of the entire trial. My sister Maria died serving this country. Mr. Thompson's actions dishonored her sacrifice and our family's grief. His discrimination has no place in America. Video evidence from passenger phones plays repeatedly in the courtroom. Thompson's voice saying, "Get lost, boy," echoes through the chamber as jurors watch his discriminatory behavior. Corporate accountability extends far beyond individual criminal charges. Atlantic Airways faces unprecedented federal punishment. $50 million in federal civil rights fines. Complete loss of all federal contracts worth $200 million annually. Mandatory federal oversight for 5 years. Minimum court-ordered diversity and inclusion programs. Independent civil rights monitors at every airport. CEO Sterling testifies under oath about corporate failures. We failed systemically at every level. The Thompson incident exposed deep cultural problems we should have addressed years earlier. Congressional hearings examined discrimination patterns across the entire transportation industry. Military families testify about widespread mistreatment they've endured while traveling. The trial's sentencing phase delivers justice that satisfies the public demand for accountability. Judge Maria Gutierrez delivers a scathing condemnation from the federal bench. Mr. Thompson, your actions represent everything wrong with prejudice in America. You targeted a decorated military officer, dishonored a fallen hero, and violated the very civil rights our military swears to protect. Thompson receives the maximum sentence allowed under federal guidelines, 18 months in federal prison, $25,000 in personal fines, 500 hours of community service with military veterans, permanent ban from employment in transportation industries. 3 years federal probation with mandatory counseling. Required completion of civil rights education programs. Derek Thompson receives even harsher punishment for his management conspiracy. 3 years federal prison, $75,000 in fines. Permanent ban from corporate management positions. Forfeiture of pension benefits. Civil liability for enabling discrimination. Atlantic Airways stock plummeted 40% within the week following the verdict. The company faces additional consequences that threaten its survival. Class action lawsuits from hundreds of affected passengers, military boycotts supported by veteran organizations nationwide, congressional investigations into transportation discrimination, federal contract suspensions across government agencies, international reputation damage affecting global partnerships. Major news networks cover the story extensively, generating millions of social media shares. Thompson's mugshot becomes a viral symbol of justice served, shared with hashtags #JusticeFor Colonel Washington and #Honor Our Heroes. The case prompts immediate federal legislation strengthening protections for military families in transportation. The Staff Sergeant Rodriguez Military Family Protection Act passes Congress unanimously with bipartisan support. Representative Maria Santos sponsors the bill with passionate floor remarks. No military family should ever face the discrimination Colonel Washington experienced. Our service members deserve dignity, not prejudice. Thompson's sentencing hearing attracts national media coverage. His desperate plea for mercy falls on deaf judicial ears after months of evidence. Your Honor, I've lost everything, Thompson sobs in federal court. My wife divorced me. I lost my home. My children won't speak to me. Please show mercy. Judge Gutierrez responds with appropriate judicial severity. Mr. Thompson, you showed no mercy to Colonel Washington or Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's memory. Federal law demands accountability for civil rights violations. The broader investigation expands to other airlines, revealing industry-wide discrimination problems. Federal oversight increases across all major transportation companies. Consumer advocacy groups praise the verdict as a watershed moment for civil rights enforcement. Military organizations declare victory for service member dignity and respect. Thompson begins serving his federal prison sentence at a minimum security facility in Pennsylvania. His cell block includes other white-collar criminals who mock his notoriety as the racist gate agent. The case becomes required study material in corporate diversity training programs nationwide. Business schools analyze Atlantic Airways' failure as a cautionary tale about institutional discrimination. Federal investigators estimate the case prevented hundreds of future discrimination incidents through deterrent effects on transportation industry practices. Thompson's appeals are denied at every level. His legal team abandons his case after exhausting all options. Justice has been thoroughly served. 6 months later, Colonel Washington successfully completed Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's escort mission with the honor and dignity she deserved. Her military funeral drew hundreds of attendees, including many passengers who witnessed the airport discrimination. The story of Thompson's prejudice ironically brought more recognition to Rodriguez's sacrifice than might have occurred otherwise. Her name now graces the federal legislation protecting military families from transportation discrimination. Washington has since been promoted to Brigadier General and leads the Pentagon's new Military Family Dignity Initiative. His office ensures no military family faces similar discrimination anywhere in America. Every complaint gets investigated thoroughly. Washington explains from his Pentagon office, "We've created a direct hotline for military families experiencing discrimination during travel." Thompson's aftermath tells a different story entirely. He serves his federal sentence at minimum security prison, participating in mandatory diversity education programs that force him to confront his prejudices daily. His wife Jennifer divorced him 6 months after sentencing, citing public embarrassment and financial hardship from legal fees and lost income. "I can't raise our children around this hatred," she told divorce court. Thompson lost his suburban home to foreclosure and now lives with distant relatives in rural Pennsylvania. He works manual labor jobs while on federal probation, earning minimum wage after years of airline management salary. His attempts to apologize publicly have been firmly rejected by Washington and the Rodriguez family, who consider his words hollow given his documented pattern of discriminatory behavior over multiple years. "He's sorry he got caught, not sorry for his actions," Agent Rodriguez states bluntly. "Real apologies require genuine change, not just fear of consequences." Atlantic Airways underwent complete corporate restructuring under federal oversight. New CEO Patricia Williams, the former airport security supervisor who defended Washington, implemented comprehensive changes throughout the organization. The airline now operates under zero-tolerance discrimination policies with immediate termination for any bias incidents. They've established a military family first-class upgrade program and annual scholarship fund for military children. Federal oversight compliance exceeds all requirements, but the company lost significant market share to competitors who gained military family loyalty during the scandal. The incident sparked broader national conversations about everyday discrimination and corporate accountability. Military organizations nationwide adopted the story as training material for civilian-military relations. Washington speaks regularly at corporate diversity events across America, using his experience to educate business leaders about unconscious bias and systemic discrimination. Discrimination doesn't just hurt individuals, Washington tells packed auditoriums. It destroys companies, communities, and our fundamental national values of equality and justice. The Rodriguez family established a non-profit organization supporting military families facing discrimination. Agent Rodriguez left federal service to lead the organization full-time, ensuring her sister's sacrifice continues protecting others. Maria would be proud that her final mission sparked positive change, Rodriguez reflects during interviews. Her death wasn't in vain if it prevents others from experiencing what Colonel Washington endured. Washington often reflects on the incident during evening runs around the Pentagon Memorial. The experience reinforced his commitment to military service and civil rights protection. That day at the airport revealed both the worst and best of America, Washington muses. One man's prejudice mobilized thousands of people to demand justice and accountability. The viral videos continued generating millions of views across social media platforms. Comment sections overflow with support for Washington and condemnation of Thompson's behavior. Educational institutions use the case study to teach about institutional racism, corporate responsibility, and the importance of individual courage in confronting discrimination when witnessed. Congressional testimony from the case influenced broader civil rights legislation beyond transportation. The ripple effects continue expanding across multiple sectors of American society. Washington addresses viewers directly with the wisdom earned through decades of military service and personal experience with discrimination. What happened to me at that airport happens to people every day across America. The difference was that I had rank, resources, and federal authority to fight back effectively. His voice carries the authority of someone who has seen both combat and prejudice. Many victims of discrimination don't have those advantages. We must all stand up against bias whenever we witness it. The screen shows statistical overlays as Washington continues his final message. Staying silent when witnessing discrimination makes us complicit in perpetuating injustice. Your voice matters. Your actions have consequences. If this story moved you emotionally, please share it with others who need to hear this message. Like and subscribe to support more stories of justice and accountability. Washington's final challenge resonates with moral authority. But more importantly than social media engagement, when you see discrimination happening in real life, don't just record it for viral content. His eyes look directly into the camera with intensity. Speak up courageously. Take action immediately. Be the change you want to see in America. The provocative question that concludes the story forces viewer self-reflection. Here's my question for you to consider honestly. If you witnessed discrimination like this happening to someone who couldn't fight back the way I could, someone without rank, resources, or federal protection, would you have the courage to stand up for them? The pause allows the weight of the question to sink in completely. Or would you just keep walking and pretend it wasn't your problem? Washington's closing statistics provide sobering context. Every year, thousands of military families face discrimination in civilian settings. Every year, millions of Americans experience prejudice in public spaces. The question isn't whether discrimination exists. We know it does. The real question is whether we'll tolerate it continuing or take action to stop it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you personally witnessed discrimination? Did you intervene? What would you do differently next time? Let's start conversations that lead to real change in our communities. Call to action. If this story moved you, smash that like button and share this video with everyone you know. Subscribe for more stories of justice served. Comment below. Have you witnessed discrimination? What would you do in this situation? Your like supports justice. Your share spreads awareness. Your subscribe builds change. Final question. Here's my challenge. If you saw discrimination against someone who couldn't fight back like Colonel Washington, would you speak up or walk away?
Reality isn't always easy to hear, but that's exactly why we tell it. At Black Voices Uncut, we go beyond the surface, showing what others won't. If you value unfiltered truth, hit like, comment your perspective, and subscribe. Every voice matters, and every truth deserves to be heard.